Ah, this is better. Pants are better.
All right, talk. Carry on a conversation.
Yeah, so do you spend much time, are you rolling? Yeah. Do you spend much time out here in the fields, on the farms?
Yes, I spend a lot of time. I like, but it is very useful. We are being proof with chicken, kind of proof. But I have about 10 or 12 places with different kind of experiments. But very useful, muy útil. Very useful. Because nosotros estamos revolucionando toda la técnica de producir leche y café.
We are revolutionizing all techniques in the production of meat and milk.
But you're
We had a very old agriculture, artisanal system of producing. You know, we need to mechanize the production. I like to experiment with cattle and with sugar. Now we are going to cross for a place where we are making a sugarcane experience.
Is this where you have the new cutters from Soviet Russia?
Not really. We have got cattle from Canadian.
Did you say cutters or cattle?
From Jersey.
No. I said,
Loaders.
Is this where he has the cutters, the new
loaders?
sugar cane?
Sugar cane. Yes, sugar cane machinery. To make the crop are Soviet. Wonderful machinery. Few people believe that it was possible to cut with machinery the sugar cane. They built in 3 months machinery. We proved machinery. It's a wonderful machinery. Without the machinery, it was impossible to increase our production. Cutting the sugar cane with hand was impossible to produce more than 5 to 6 million tons.
But
now,
last year you produced only 3.5 million.
El año pasado solo producimos 3 millones.
little more, less than 4 million.
Do you feel that the volunteer effort was a mistake?
El esfuerzo de los trabajadores voluntarios. Si usted tiene que fue una equivocación. El esfuerzo de los trabajadores voluntarios.
No, you know what happened? That when revolution take the power, began many works, public works, agricultural works, all kind of works. And so thousands and thousands of labor went to other jobs because sugarcane crop was the hard one. And now many of them are working in public labor, in roads. They have job all the year. In other kind of agricultural job, they have job all the year. And in the past, we had about 400,000 labor without job almost all the year. They only work in the crop. And that is not the situation now. That is why it was necessary to mobilize. They only do the part of the job. We mobilize soldiers, voluntary workers in the crop. But in 2 years, we will not need at all. Because in the past, for example, we need 300,000 to produce 6 million tons. Now, when we have mechanization, complete mechanization, we will need no more than 15,000 to produce 6 million tons. But we are going to produce 10 million. And all the crop cannot be mechanized because when the land is planned, you can mechanize it. But when you have some fields, you cannot complete mechanization, only half mechanization. Then you need to cut and to take the machine only to
But
charge.
won't this mechanization, as in all the
You see our line now in January, it's a small station. I have here a small station. It's personal investigation. Sugarcane. It is new, only a few months. And there you have to producir abono verde, existing, a new technical to produce sugarcane. We planted one leguminosa there. Dile que nosotros hemos plantado una leguminosa allí para enterrarla y después sembrar caña.
We have planted a green fertilizer there, bury it and then produce and then plant.
There's a question I wanted to ask Dr.
Hay una
Castro,
pregunta que le quiero hacer.
and that is,
Alfalfa. You see how pretty alfalfa? It's new in Cuba. New in Cuba. You see?
I'm wondering if the mechanization.
Eso no se echa para atrás si no se puede pasar. Echa para atrás.
Cut it. What I wanted to ask is if the mechanization will put people out of work, as it has in our country.
Okay. Alfalfa. Dile que allí vamos a producir conejos. Con alfalfa. Es alfalfa,
Rabbits,
pero
we're
no
going to
producir.
produce rabbits on that field. Doctor, le quiero hacer una pregunta, que si la mecanización no causará desempleo.
No, really, because we need the people to build houses, to build hospital, school, to the factory, new factory. Never.
That's your answer.
For example, we have no problem with unemployment. For example, to produce shoes, we had many small factories, What we did? We concentrated the labor in a big factory. Disappear a small factory. Then we pay the labor their salary while they were studying another thing, to work in as torneros, técnicos, obreros técnicos. When we have, cuando nosotros tenemos un excedente de trabajadores,
We have surplus manpower.
we send them to school, we pay them, we send to school, we prepare to another activity. But really no problem, because there are many needs. In every country there are needs. If you employ your labor to produce the thing you need, you will never have unemployment. In the past, we have not, for example, market to the sugar cane. So you cannot develop, you cannot mechanize. Because if you mechanize, you have not market, everybody hungry. Now we can mechanize because we have all market we want for our sugar, for our meat, everything we produce, we can sell. That is why we have not stopped to our production, because we have market.
And you will sell in the Western markets as well as in Soviet Russia and the Eastern markets.
Y venderemos tanto los mercados occidentales
Of
como los
course,
mercados.
of course. We sell a lot of sugar and tobacco. We sell to Japanese, Japan, Spain, England, Morocco, Rao, Arabic Republic. Well, many, 20 or 30 nations we sell sugar, tobacco. We can produce, for example, vegetable, because now you go to produce vegetable in Canada and other nations, in invernadero. How do you say invernadero?
Invernadero, that's a place where you make artificial growing of the trees, invernadero.
Now we can produce tomato, lettuce, everything now. We are near United States. In the past, we sent some vegetable to United States, and they send vegetable to us in the months that are too much hot here. Our economy and the United States economy have something that is supplementary. They, for example, they like tobacco. They like our sugar. They have overproduction of something like corn, grass, ¿cómo se dice manteca? Fat. They have overproduction. But now the situation obligates us to produce, to find another market. That is the situation. But we can live in peace. Why we do? Do you think that it's possible to live in peace if you are fishing? They take, because it was enough today. You are in our water. Go. Oxford is most of the time in our water.
It means a chip, the Oxford chip.
Many times in our waters.
We have fished in your national waters?
Not really. You don't fish because there are other places better to fish. You know, in the Gulf Stream. A la izquierda, eso. They don't need to fish. But we need to fish in the Gulf Stream. Sometimes near Mexico, sometimes near Brazil. Now we are developing a float.
But Dr. Castro, you must have known that if the boats went within 4 miles of the United States coast, that this was going to create an incident. You must have known this.
Usted debe haber sabido que si los barcos iban a aproximarse a 4 millas a las costas norteamericanas, iba a haber un incidente.
Not exactly to 4 miles to the United States coast. few miles from a small key very far from the United States. It's not the same like near New York, near Miami, near Key West. They were few miles near one small, almost invisible key. It's not the same. And it is enough. What happened if what happened? You are in our water. But they were not sincere, they were not in America. And we gave advice to them, no to them, 2 months ago. Because we need to fish, because the Gulf Stream, sometimes the fish are here, sometimes here, sometimes here, sometimes here. You know to fish. If we cannot fish in one of the parts, it is not prejudice to anybody. United States have problem with Ecuador, with Peru, because they have 200 miles. We have only 3 miles. Now, I don't know the reason to be any difficult, because our Soviet ship are there fishing in all parts. Japanese ship in every place. 3 miles from us. Never incident start with another ship, only with our ship. Why?
Why?
Ship.
¿Por qué? ¿Por qué?
You ought to know better than me. You know your people. You know your people, your government.
¿Por qué?
It's a chicken. It's 2 chicken grand.
Chicken farm.
2 eggs production. It's new too. There are many new houses. You see? Machinery for cattle. To crop, to make heno. Canadian. That are
Where do they cut Canada?
Canadian, yes. It's food for cattle.
Are those recent? When did you get those from Canada?
About 1 month ago, for the new plants. Now we have a school of about 600 students to study soil, fertilization, and feed for cattle. Food for cattle. It's a new school, very wonderful school. About 600. Near where was Batista farm.
So there has been a tremendous development in your agricultural economy in the last few years.
Así que ha habido un gran desarrollo en nuestra economía agrícola en los últimos años.
It is better to say that we have prepared the condition to produce a big.
And you feel that you now produce enough to feed your people sufficiently and to export?
Yes. In meat, yes. I think that in 5 or 6 years we will. Now we want to fish, because if we fish, we can export meat in the future. Of course, if everybody eat only meat, but if people eat meat, fish, eggs, chicken, it is possible to export meat. Por la derecha eso.
When do you think, Dr. Castro, the rationing situation will end here in the island?
¿Cuándo usted opina que cesará el racionamiento? ¿Cuándo usted opina que cesará la situación de racionamiento?
I think that we will need this complete, because there are 2 ways when the people have too much money. Is prices or racionamiento, you know?
Ration.
We don't want to use prices, because we increase the prices, people who have few money cannot buy. That is why now the situation is improving. Why? Until now we were making emission of money. Now we are taking money. In 2 years, financial situation will be quite different. Production bigger. Financial situation, sana finanza, no finanza sana.
Sound.
For example, in December, the National Bank reached 20 million more than the money they emitted. You know, last 2 months we were taking money from circulation, and And the situation is that we begin to take money from circulation.
How did this happen so suddenly?
Because we have more production, we have more imported product, industrial product. For example, in December, we are sold about $200 million in radio, clothes, food, wine, many things.
All produced here in Cuba?
No, not all produced.
Well, how did you get them?
For example, the wine we imported from Spain, wine, television, radio, several industrial.
Yes, but what I'm trying to find out is where did you get the money to import all this?
Because we export sugar. Price of sugar was very high price. We sold sugar at 10 cents. And this year we have sold the sugar at 9.
On the Western market?
The Western market. And in the Soviet market, we don't prefer those prices of conjunctura prices. Because sometimes it's very high, then it's very low. We cannot plan. That is why we make a
steady price.
A state price.
Steady.
6 cents and about 5 million tons. All the sugar we can sell to 6 cents until 1970.
But wasn't the Soviet sugar that they purchased pegged at 4 cents?
Pardon?
Wasn't the Soviet sugar that was purchased last year pegged at 4 cents?
Que si la azúcar soviética vendía el año pasado fue...
No, they paid us the same that in world market. And our price to world market was 6 cents. Now this year they wanted to pay the world market. They thought it was better for us. But we explained then we were developing our sugar production, that the price in the future will not so high, that we prefer to make our economical planification to sell to the same price, same quantity. We are going to sold, this year we sold then 1,600,000. Next year 2,100,000. Other year 3 million. Other year 4 million, and then 68, 69, and 70, 5 million.
Other subjects for which we talk about other subjects.
The price will be about our sugar crop will worth in 1970 about 1,200 millions. Only sugar. Now we buy from Soviet Union oil, machinery, trigo, foods. You know?
No.
We buy food.
Tell me what you said.
I am going to
Tell me
show.
what you said about the weapons.
I am going
Say
to
that again. That you don't pay for them.
We don't pay for weapons.
Why not?
Because we would never have money enough to pay all the weapons we have need.
You have a lot of weapons.
Unfortunately, a lot of them.
When do you think the day will come, Dr. Castro, when you won't
We
need all those
prefer
weapons?
machinery to the agriculture and to the factory than the weapons. And war and ship to fish, not to war. Airplane to travel and to work, not to fight. It is clear. Anybody who comes to Cuba can see that what we want is to work. We need to work. That is our problem and the problem of all the nations. Who wants work? Who wants work? Nobody wants work.
What would happen
I
if
think the United States is a big nation, can live in peace with a small nation at 90 miles.
How? Where's the basis? Where's the basis? How can Cuba and the United States live in peace?
Basic key. Very easy. I think the basis, legal basis, the respect, ¿cómo se dice?
Mutual respect.
Respect to the international law.
Respect to the
And to the
international law.
sovereignty.
Sovereignty.
Then there are problems, economical problem, indemnization. I have spoken about that.
Yes, but you are a realist, Dr. Castro. And you have stated various times
diversas ocasiones
Yes,
that
why?
you want to live in peace with the United
que desea
States.
vivir en paz con los Estados Unidos.
Now, what concessions
¿Qué concesiones
are you willing to make
está usted dispuesto a hacer?
to live in
We
peace with
don't
the United States?
we don't demand concession to the United States.
No. I say, what concessions
To them,
are you willing to make?
why are they want concession from us? What kind of concession can be possible? Political concession. We cannot make political concession. If they want capitalism here, we don't want capitalism. It's impossible to make political concession.
Suppose if the basis would be
And what
to end the
political...
training of subversive activities here to export subversion to other nations
Suponga
throughout
que
the
la condición fuera
hemisphere.
que se pusiera punto final a las actividades subversivas hacia otras naciones.
I think that what I means to a legal base, absolute respect to the international law and the sovereignty of every country include that principle. The same from Cuba and the same from United States. We can live in peace with all the nations in Latin America and with United States over the base of the law.
But we consider,
And the respect of the law. We respect the sovereignty of every nation, and United States too. Cuba,
it
Panama.
we consider that it violates international law and the security of the hemisphere
Consideramos que viola la seguridad, la ley, el derecho internacional y la soberanía.
when you train agents
Cuando usted entrena a agentes
for subversive activities throughout the hemisphere.
para actividades subversivas en todo el hemisferio.
Yes, you always are speaking about that. You never speak about you are training agents to make counter-revolution in all the world. Why don't you speak about that? You like to speak about
Let's
Cuba.
speak about the other first.
De primero vamos a hablar del otro.
Which is first?
My question.
La pregunta de ellos.
And why?
Okay.
Who began first to make counter-revolution in the world? Cuba. Counter-revolution was first from revolution. We means that we want to live in peace. The condition necessary to live in peace. It is our answer. We want to live in peace with all the world, our basis of law and respect. See, this is the place where we are going to concentrate 1,500 cattle.
Aquí vamos.
Yes, in this place. And the food will be produced in 95 hectares near from this place. The grass will be cut and translated to here. They will have 3 shadows. Not building, you see? Not expensive, not a high cost, because we are going to use 3 from shadow. They will eat all around. 1,500 in this place, and the food for them will be produced in 95 hectares. Will be a world record, and we will begin in March 15 or in April 1. It depends, because now the grass is growing, and in 1 year we want to state, we think to state a record. That was what I mean, that we will produce more meat and more milk, not in total, but for hectare, you know?
No. I was interested in the problem of prostitution.
Se está interesado en el problema de la prostitución.
What do you do to rehabilitate the girls?
They study, their family are helped. It's a job we are making slowly. We don't permit to be open in a new place. It's a voluntary. Those who want to be rehabilitated, it's voluntary.
Voluntary,
Do most of the girls want to be rehabilitated?
La mayoría de las muchachas quieren ser rehabilitadas.
I think most of them. We have not enough places now for all them. And in this morning, I don't feel very well. From headache.
You have a headache.
Yes.
Where's the buffer?
What's the buffer in the room, like you said?
This is a school.
Tell us a little, Dr. Castro, of how you spend a day. What you do during the whole day.
¿Qué es lo que usted hace durante el día?
In the morning, I like to study, visit places. The afternoon meeting government offices. Rich people, pay attention to people, visitors. In the night, several.
What do you study? What are you studying?
I study very much agriculture.
What kind of books does
What do you
Dr.
read? What are you reading with relaxation?
Sometimes like history, literature. Now I am reading, for example, Winston Churchill memoir. Now,
You find them interesting?
very good.
What do you think of Churchill?
Churchill. It was very interesting. And he played a very important paper during the war. I think it is a big England. He defended the interests of Britannic Empire. It's tenacity and decision.
What did you think of our late President Kennedy?
¿Qué es lo que usted opina del fallecido presidente Kennedy?
I think that he defended to the interests of the United States. With energy, I think he tried to do the best for the interests of their government. I cannot analyze Kennedy for his political to Cuba, because it was not friendship political. Lot of hostility. And it is not easy that we can become judges of our contemporary. I think that will be the history. But we'll make the most just judge of the actual men.
Do you think he was a strong leader, a good leader?
I think he was a leader in the United States. It is true. And he had conditions. My personal opinion, he had a good condition of leader. I understand quite well that the United States politically is not an easy. Very much struggle, very much problem. Many times political cannot do what. Many times they have to do the contrary of the thing they think is better. Because they are personal interests, they are political and they are party interests. Many times they don't do the best. Many times they walk with the mistake, knowing that it's mistake.
Are you saying that if Kennedy had been freer, he would have pursued a different policy toward Cuba?
Que si él hubiera estado libre, que si hubiera sido libre, hubiera perseguido una política diferente hacia Cuba.
I think in middle of the difficulty, he was beginning to change. That is my opinion. And I think that he could have enough braveness to produce some change.
Enough prestige.
That is what I mean, enough prestige. Because it is very difficult in the United States where there is nobody with strong prestige. It is difficult because there is a strong authority is needed in the United States to surpass,
Surmount.
Yes.
And Johnson? You think Johnson will pursue the same policy toward Cuba?
I don't know very well Johnson. In the beginning, I liked that something was discreet about Cuba. But something happened like this at the chief, at the fish, look, all the country. We didn't like when he redesigned Thomas Mann, as responsible of the Latin American politics. And I think that not liberal in South America like it. And many people suspect that the political is going to be changed.
Do you think it is?
I think.
You think it's going to be a harder line?
Hard line, and possible they will be most interested in private interest than in public interest. I think they want to strengthen, hacer fuerte, private interest in Latin America. I think Kennedy policy tried to be more liberal in Latin America than the policy of
You speaking of the Alianza?
I am speaking of the Alianza. But the Alianza will be no solution anyway. Not stability, many contradictions. And anybody see the progress in any way. I think that we are progressing more than any other country since now.
Than any country in the hemisphere?
Yes. We can use our money rationalize our divisa, not to buy automobiles, buy machinery, not to spend in luxury, to spend in ways for working. What we need are ways of work, medios de trabajo.
Means of work.
Means of work.
If he'd been here this afternoon, it was all right.
Dr. Castro, roll 2, take 1.
Another thing, I was speaking, different nations, different conditions, different ways of the progress. And I think that the capitalistic system is not eternal, as was not any social system, not feudalism, not ancient, all of the Roma, Greece. Their system were not eternal. There is not eternal class social system. That is why I think sooner or later all the social system will change in all the world. That is my idea.
When you were in Moscow, you spoke very highly of Premier Khrushchev's policy of peaceful coexistence and his desire to get along with all nations and to lessen tensions.
Yes.
Now, does this extend to approval of the Test Ban Treaty?
Cuando estuvo en Moscú, usted habló temáticamente de la política de Khrushchev hacia la coexistencia pacífica con todas las naciones. ¿Quiere esto decir que usted aprueba el Tratado de Prohibición de las Pruebas Nucleares?
When the treatment we said it was a good news, and that the humanity reached it as a good news. But our situation was a special situation. We spoke about this problem in the United Nations. We said that there was a special situation because while the United States signed the treaty in Moscow, the United States policy about Cuba increased subversion, sending weapons. And so, in consideration of our special situation, we didn't want to sign.
So you will not sign the Test Ban Treaty?
What? While this situation persists, while this situation of aggression from the United States to Cuba persists, we don't have not decided to sign. If this situation change and our special situation disappear, we would sign. we think it was one advance, not a complete advance. I think it was one step in favor of peace.
What situation would have to exist for you to sign the test ban treaty?
When the United States leaves us in peace, that is the situation.
Cut. That's all right, because no, this is necessary. I'm going to move now to a series of questions on Zanzibar, Venezuela, etc., etc. Okay, okay.
Let's keep going.
Dr. Castro, many well-documented reports claim that you had a hand in the Zanzibar Revolution and that possibly a dozen key men were trained here in Cuba. Is that so?
The son of the leaders, son of the men that were in the revolution, they said they have visited Cuba. I heard that they said they lived in Cuba. It's possible in Cuba they learn some experience, but not to learn your own experience in United States. But that are things that I don't understand.
Well, there have also been reports that South Africans are undergoing training here in Cuba for an eventual uprising against the government there.
That is not true. That is not true. Of course, if somebody wants to come to Cuba to learn about our revolution from us, from Africa, for example, if somebody wants to come to Cuba to see what we are doing, to study our experience, we would be agree. Why not? But the truth is that nobody is demanding us to come to Cuba and to learn our experience. The truth, I think that is an exaggeration, really.
Well, the black African in South Africa lives under a brutal and oppressive tyranny. I'm sure you agree with that. Surely you would not be against training someone here to overthrow that kind of regime.
Los negros del África del Sur viven bajo un régimen brutal y tiránico. Ella está segura que usted no tendría nada en contra de entrenarlos aquí.
I don't know why you speak about one special nation.
Understand?
It is better to speak. You asked me
But
about...
no, momentito.
¿Qué es lo que comenzó?
Usted me
Dr.
preguntó acerca de
Castro,
entrenar
roll
aquí a gente subversiva. You asked
take
me
two.
about the training here of subversive agents.
You asked me about training subversive agent. And you asked me especially, for example, South Africa. I said, I think that anybody who wants to come to Cuba and to learn our experience, social experience, our history, we are not going to stop any revolutionary who want to come to learn about that matter in Cuba. But as a practical thing, I think about the practical of the way and the experience to make a revolution. My belief is that a revolution is not a matter of training agent, subversive agent. What I believe sincerely is that it is better a principle, an international principle, that nobody do anything in the inside problem of any nation. I think that the world peace will be sure when anybody try to introduce some political in another nation. And I think that this is a principle that ought to be practiced not only by Cuba, but for all the world, including, of course, United States, because United States interfere in internal matter of the nation, trying in counter-revolution, because where the counter-revolution are prepared in the United States.
And you don't? And you don't?
I don't. It is not our policy. It is not our policy.
They found a cache of arms on a coast in Venezuela. It was known that your agents were involved in the Panama riots.
You know our position about that problems, but I can speak with you all what you want about that. It not means that I'm going to answer everything you or FBI or CIA or State Department will be interested that I answer, of course. I am speaking about positions. And what I have to say about this, that we are agree with a principal policy. It means, well, I am agree with international principle that no nation interfere in the internal matter of another nation. But if the United States don't want to live agree with international law, the United States want to promote counter-revolution, reaction in all the world, United States have any right to forbidding the right of the nation to defend from that policy. That is my opinion.
Specifically, our State Department does not believe that you started the riots in Panama, but we do believe that your agents aggravated the situation after the riots happened. Now, do you accept or deny this charge?
We have not agent in Panama. We have not agent. To have agent in all the world are necessary $1,000 million like CIA have to spend in counter-revolution weapons agent. We have no money to pay agents. Of course, we have not agent in any place. And concretely, in Panama, we have no agents. We have anything to do with the problem of Panama. I mean that Cuba government have not have any participation in Panama problem. As you know, the first reason was the mistake. First place of the United States students, they provoked the problem, and after the problem, to make fire over the crowd, and the problem were the 30 deaths. That is the real reason, not the real reason. That is a consequence of the special situation of the treaty, Panama Treaty. It's a treaty that was imposed by force at the beginning of this century.
Okay, I don't want to go into any more of that in Venezuela. That's okay. I'm sorry. Okay, let's keep rolling.
¿Qué dice?
Sorry. Okay.
It was
Oh,
clear.
sorry. What about the situation, Dr. Castro, in Venezuela? A report by the OAS said that they did find arms on the coast which came from Cuba. They have asked you to reply to that charge. What is going to be your reply?
Acerca de la cuestión de Venezuela, que las armas vinieron de Cuba. Según la investigación de la OEA, ellos le han pedido a usted que responda. ¿Cuál va a ser la respuesta?
We answered that the OEA has any jurisdiction about Cuba because they nos expulsaron. They expulsed us from the OEA. And our position is that OEA has not moral to judge any kind of problem about Cuba because OEA didn't do anything while United States 5 years have been sending weapons to Cuba to fight against Cuban government, sending agents, promoting subversion and counter-revolution, and now appear one accusation against Cuba, and very soon everybody ready to take measure against to Cuba, to judge Cuba. They would have right and moral to judge Cuba when they judge first to the United States, because United States have been practicing during 5 years that political. That is our position about that problem.
Are you anxious to get back into the family of the hemispheric nations?
Nobody is anxious to be with a family if that family, the men who control those who control that organization don't want us in that family. Would you agree to be in one family that don't want that you be in the family? We didn't renounce to be in the family. We were expulsed by that family. And now our position is to wait.
if the ruling classes in the other Latin American countries were to make reforms, drastic reforms, land reform, tax reform, and lift the standard of living of the people in Latin America truly, wouldn't your message lose a great deal of its significance?
But that is an hypothetical supposition. What I believe is that the oligarchy that rules that nation and the military group, reactionary, that rule that nation will never make any kind of reform. And another thing, those men of the oligarchy, they said, you in the United States want that we divide our lands, make taxes, but you don't want to renounce to your interests here. Because I have said that some men of the oligarchy think that if United States monopoly have a strong interest that are not going to be sacrificed, have not the right to demand them be sacrificed. Of course, in any nation that where be taken, where social reform be taken sincerely and honestly, and the standard of living increase, el descontento. Well, what I want to mean is if the social situation change and violent revolution have not the same possibility, of course, because the real, you in the United States go to understand that the real cause of revolution is poverty, hunger, oppression.
Yes, but Dr. Castro, one of the most progressive governments in Latin America is Venezuela. And yet,
and why?
And yet you save your most violent invective for Venezuela. Not the Dominican Republic, not some of the most reactionary governments, but one of the most progressive governments.
I can answer you. Where was not Cuban government who began this polemic? Was Venezuela government. They interfered. Their embassy when they had relation was in connection with counter-revolutionary group. They wanted to break relation with Cuba. But I do not say that is one of the most progressive. What I think is the kind of government that you in the United States prefer, the kind of government that monopoly and those oil monopoly prefer because their profits are sure. For example, when Betancourt took power, they had 40,000 laborers working in the company. Now they have only 30,000. The profit of the company now are much bigger than they were when Betancourt took the power. That is why you say it's a progressive government. It's a progressive government for the interest of the monopoly, but it's not a progressive government for the interest of the people, because Venezuela could be the most richest nation of the world. Why are there 500 unemployed? Why are there 1 million men without illiterate? 1 million illiterate? Why in Venezuela are there so many problems, social problems? Why the students are against that government? Why the people are against that government? Because in the last election, Betancourt candidate only got 30% of the vote. You see in Cuba, the students are not against the government, the peasants are not against the government, the intellectuals are not against the government, because this is a real progressive government. I want that you ask one question. Why the job people, the students, 95% of the students are against government, Betancourt government? If Betancourt were really a progressive government, but those who have got the profits is not Venezuela people, are United States oil company who got the profits. That is why for you in United States, Betancourt is Saint Betancourt, and I something like a devil, Diablo, something like a devil. Do you know that is the reason? That is my opinion.
I'm sorry, it has to be cut. I want a framed answer, and there's only one way to do it. Let him know. I want him to frame an answer now. Want to keep rolling? Cut.
Dr. Castro, roll 2, take 3.
Dr. Castro, a central question of the revolution remains, was a communist revolution your blueprint, or did Cuba become a communist state because of actions of the United States or because of the intrinsic conditions of the revolution?
Fue la revolución comunista al principio, se convirtió en comunista por condiciones intrínsecas, por acciones de los Estados Unidos.
I know that somebody have been discussing about that. The truth, since the beginning, I always thought in a social revolution, in a real social radical revolution. At the beginning, we were not thinking about the name, how was going to be called that revolution, but we started from our own problems, from our own social situation, our needs, and sincerely, I never fought for any kind of revolution if it was not going to be a social and radical revolution, because to continue doing the same thing that happened in Cuba was not just to do anything.
Yes, but did you want to make a communist revolution?
Yes. Well, and then you cannot call at that time in our thinking, if we think that we could be called communist. What you call, do you use it to call a communist, you know? But social revolutionary, of course. And nobody could tell at that time what was going to happen in the future. How far could we go? It was going to depend about many situations. Of course, that the difficult difference between United States and Cuba, the aggressive position of the United States government about Cuba, introduced new element in the situation. Introducing the Cold War here. Somebody in the United States said that we introduced Cold War. That is not true. And before we speak about socialism, not communism, before speaking about socialism, when we made our agrarian reform, in the United States began the plans to invade. And Bahia Cochino invasion was planned about when we made the agrarian reform. Now you are speaking about agrarian reform, but 4 years away, no one in the United States spoke about agrarian reform. After Cuban Revolution, you are speaking about agrarian reform and about many social reform. But the truth is that you began to plan aggression against Cuba when we made the first reform, when we began to make reform. Of course, that special situation helped the deep the radicalization, of course, helped the radicalization of the revolution.
But I'm talking about your proclamations of the Sierra
The real
Maestra.
situation.
When you said, but I must interrupt you for just a moment. When you said, we are not communist, we are revolutionaries.
Well,
I am against communism because communism violates freedom. Did you mean that at the time? Were you not a communist then?
I want to see in what written did you read that? Because as I remember, I never spoke in that situation. Because when we said we are not communist, we were telling the truth. We could not consider us, in first place, as member of the Communist Party. We were not member of the Cuban Communist Party. We were not member of an international organization. We thought we were revolutionary. We wanted to make a radical change in our nation. But we didn't call us communists because we were not members of the party, not in connection with any international party. Our idea was socialistic idea, of course. And if you read my speech when I defend myself when Moncada attacked, you will find most of the law that when revolution took power, we established here in Cuba. You can read that, our things, and you can read that I didn't speak in favor of capitalism. I didn't speak in favor of private enterprise. On the contrary, I said that with private enterprise, that living in the hand of the private interest, the solution of the Cuban problem will never solve. It would be good that you read which were our ideas. We were not members of any communist party. We were a new group of young men with a radical idea that we are trying to make a revolution. During in our road, we find, we make a relation. In the revolution, we make a relation with another party, all kind of party, communist party, some traditional political party. When we began to make our social reforms, those right party, or party of the right-wing party, reactionary party, become against us. Communist party did not come against us. They were with us. All those left party and left organization, left intellectual, took place in our favor. So revolution advanced, and new social reform, new problems with United States, with reactionary party. So we were finding with the other organization in our road. And sincerely, I can tell you now, after 5-year revolution, we are satisfied of our actual position. We are satisfied about what we have made. We think that in this way, we will advance in 10 years what we could not advance in 50 years.
You talked
if
about
you in United States be in condition of analyze objectively, if you be in condition of analyzing in United States, many of the United States citizens will understand what we are doing, what is our future, in spite of the blockade, in spite of the difficulty that the United States stand in our road.
President Johnson said just this week that he was sorry that the passengers of the Cuban fishing vessels were placed in prison, and that he hopes... What? Okay. I want to turn to that. Well, then, that's the truth. That's the truth. And I'm insulted. I'm highly insulted.
But it's good that I tell something like that. I speak about that. Don't you think?
I'm not ready.
Okay, this is roll 2. Dr. Castro, and you take 4.
Dr. Castro, President Johnson said that he personally was sorry that the passengers of the Cuban fishing vessels were placed in jail, and that he hopes they can get out as soon as possible, but that he thought your reaction to what happened was too strong. Now, if you had known what President Johnson's attitude was, would you have turned off the water at Guantanamo?
Presidente Johnson personalmente dijo que ese día que los pescadores cubanos estuvieran presos y que esperaba que pronto fueran liberados, que creía que su reacción ante ese hecho había sido fuerte. ¿Hubiera sido su reacción de otra manera de saber usted la actitud del presidente Johnson?
First place, I read the cables, and I didn't read exactly that he was sorry that they were being sent to prison. I read this morning the cable. But you said me, have you heard about that?
President Johnson said that he personally was sorry they had been placed in jail. And he further added that we must understand that the United States government can't control everything. He also said that he wanted to get along with every country in the world.
If he said that he was sorry about the fissure, I think is a good declaration. And of course, we believe sincerely when the fissure were captured and sent to prison, that we were facing a new hostility policy, a new aggression policy. And of course, everybody in Cuba was very much unsatisfied with that measure. We think it was unnecessary. We thought it was unnecessary, unjust, not legal, because the water of the United States, how many laws about the waters? 2 laws, one United States, one national law, one state law. I think that it is a matter of national law.
But you realize that this was not a federal policy, but a state policy.
But now, some days after, no, the state policy, but were federal forces actually, who took the prisoner, the fisher, were federal forces. And now we are getting the impression that was a special situation with the fisher. Now we are not very much sure, now at this time, that was a deliberated plan of provocating us. That is my actual, now my impression. But we are waiting what they are going to do, because the situation is not a legal situation. And I don't know, they sent it to prison, 36 prisoners. They were 38. 2 of them were assassinated. So that means that it was not the fault, because they sent them to prison only to those who didn't want to assimilate, to demand political asylum in United States. And they have in their hands a non-legal, matter, legal. Their situation is not legal. And I think another thing I think that is not good for United States to do that, because United States have many times problem with their fishing ships in several places. And what is United States going to do if in every time they have a problem with jurisdictional water, their ships are captured, they are fishing men sent to prison, judged? That is not a good precedent, really, for the United States. I don't know why they did that.
Was President Johnson...
Our measure was as a reaction in consideration to the illegal measure of sending to jail to our fishing. That is the only objective of the measure. Somebody said that we were trying to uprise a problem with the Navy base, and that is not true. We have declared it very clear that we were not making a fight for throwing the United States from the base. I think it is a legal problem.
Dr. Castro's interview, roll 4, take 1.
Really, I can tell you something. Now, in the actual situation, we have not a special need of commercial relation with the United States. I think that commercial relation can be good for both parts, but it's not essential for any of the parts. What you can observe, the United States have spent $1,000 million with the sugar. They are paying now the sugar at a very, very high price. They are spending very much gold in sugar. Many of the American product that they can sell to Cuba, they have not market now for them. Commercial relations can be good, but are not essential. Not for the United States, of course, and either for us. So when we speak about peace, we are not thinking about that commercial relation, any kind of economical relation. I think it's good for both nations to live in peace, really. That is what I think. But it seems that in the United States there are many people that don't see so now. I think that it will understand. So, for example, with Mexico, they did not want to live in peace many years. We are patient. We can wait 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. We are patient, sincerely. And I think that it is not easy now to establish economical, commercial. You said if I was realistic, and I am realistic. But I am realistic, I think that we can live in peace. And peace is interest for them and for us, and for everybody. That is our position. Took place in Cuba with a Republican administration, because Eisenhower was president. First measures were taken by the Republicans against Cuba, and they failed. Then Kennedy continued that policy. I think it was a mistake of Kennedy to continue Republican policy with Cuba, because Republican policy was called to fail. Republican failed, but when Democratic administration continued that policy, Republican Party had a weapon, an army against Democratic administration. Do you know? And that is the situation. You see, World Water speak very much. Sincerely, I think that nobody is going to vote to all water. Don't tell that I am interfering United States internal matter, but you ask me about my opinion. And why? All water take a very aggressive political international, a very dangerous policy. I think it take that position for demagogic. But I think in the United States enough conscience of the dangers of a war, the danger of the atomic war. And I think that no doubt, nobody can doubt that a kind of man like Goldwater, demagogic man that is making compromise, that is making a special aggressive policy, will be very dangerous for world peace.
Goldwater continually... I have to frame something. Yeah, but let me frame this and it'll be better. Goldwater has continually, in the strongest terms, asked for an invasion of Cuba. Now, if he were to become president of the United States, what do you think would be Cuba's fate?
Well, he never speak about United States soldier invasion. He speak about one invasion with mercenary and helped with airplanes. That is his position. He have some carefully. But in general, in every international matter, Goldwater position is not responsible at all position. That is true. I don't vote in the United States. I have any kind of compromise of making policy for one or for another candidate in the United States. But that is my opinion. That is my opinion. And I am sure, I am completely sure that at this time, that reactionary policy of Goldwater will never have majority in the United States. And I think he, with his demagogic, is opening a hole. Nobody want war. Nobody want atomic war. Only crazy people will want atomic war because atomic war means disappearance of everybody, and will be not any kind of victory in an atomic war. That is my opinion.
You once
That is why we are not worried from world water. Why? Well, world water is nominated. It's possible and be elected. It's possible he change, because one music is when they are aspiring, they are making political campaign, and another thing when they have the responsibility about what is going to happen. There is a lot of different. So suppose that one man like Goldwater is nominated, we will sit to wait and to see what is going to do. In any case, we are afraid. In any case, we have been in very difficult situation. We have been facing a lot of danger.
Excuse me 1 minute, but he said
risk.
afraid, and I mean he means not afraid. I know that. We're not afraid is what he means. He means not
yes.
afraid. Yes, I know that.
What I said.
You said we are afraid.
We are never afraid. We are not going to be afraid. That is what I wanted to. I wanted to tell that we have been facing very risks, minutes full of risk, in several times, and in any case, we will be afraid. We will not be afraid in any case.
Wait, I want to frame a question again. Okay. You said at one...
Assure you that some change was taking place under Kennedy administration. So Kennedy was assassinated. That is why we said it was a bad news, because we were facing a new situation and we could not know what new thing can happen. And we are observing situation now.
Dr. Castro, moving to your revolution, do you believe that Cuba is a police state?
Do you believe? You have been living here in Cuba about 2 weeks.
3, take 1.
We are not in a hurry now to discuss about Navy base. We think we have time to discuss about that by diplomatic ways and by in international way, legal ways. That is our position since the beginning. And we never have provoked any problem about the base. In this special situation, we took a measure that we think we are in the right taking. Because what to do when you see that some unjust measure is taken, aggression is taken? And I think that it is necessary. It is just to take a measure against another measure, but not, I repeat, was not a measure in consideration of the situation of the base, in consideration to the fishermen. And our position is, if justice, they are freedom, the fisher, as it is legal, it is a right that they be freedom, and the United States want the water again, we give the water again. They have spoken that they are going to despedir.
Fire.
Votar.
Fire.
Fire.
Sí.
Dismiss.
They are going to get away.
Fire.
Fire.
Sí.
The employees, the Cuban employees. I think it is not justice, because they are going to take measures with men that have been working 10, 15, 20 years in the base. And I think that is not a good political measure.
Okay, keep it going. I'm going to reframe the question here. Okay, keep going. When you turned the water off at Guantanamo Bay, was President Johnson's reaction more mild than you expected?
Cuando cortó el agua a la base de Guantánamo, la reacción del presidente Johnson fue más suave de lo que usted esperaba.
I cannot answer. really, when we took the measure in answering the measure that was taken with the fishermen, we are decided to face the situation, any kind of situation. Anybody can be sure what were they going to do. Of course, if they had a plan provocation, I think that new provocation step could be taken. But really, after that situation, I think that in both ways, Cuban government make the acclaration about our objective, and in United States they try to prove that there not exist any special plan of provocation about Cuba. Both United States government and Cuban government took forward a measure. I think that were good measure. For example, we took the measure of giving water 1 hour to children, women that live in that place. And in United States, some declarations were made. And we saw that in United States, some part of the people believed that was a special Cuban plan against the base. And it was not true. It was declared there was not a special plan. The base. Really, we don't want, and I don't know who wants now to start problems. I don't know who is going to win with this kind of problem. We didn't want to produce any kind of friction. So our step, since November, we said to the Swiss ambassador that represents United States interests here, that we were increasing our fishing operation, that we were thinking to fish near in the Gulf Stream near United States, not in national water of United States. Sincerely, we believe that we have made enough to avoid incidents. So when incident started, nobody here could understand why the incident. I think sincerely it was a mistake, a real mistake, and United States has been very much criticized in Europe, not only in socialistic newspaper, in many newspapers in all the world. I have read the case, because nobody can be agreed with that measure, and that measure is against the interests of the United States, because other nations can do the same with United States ship and United States fishermen.
Okay, all right, now, that's fine. Tell Dr. Castro that I want to ask him that he has spoken often of his desire to normalize relations with the United States. What is he prepared, it's a very important question, to concede to bring about this normalization of relations? Understand? And I'll pose it again. Okay, we'll start again. Dr. Castro,
not very difficult, because we have not cause that avoid, impede, that prevent us of living in peace with other nations. I speak the truth, and I speak very sincerely when I said it. Peace means...
Wait, I had to reframe something.
Yes.
Keep rolling. Okay. If the United States... What? If the United States were willing to end the trade embargo and to reestablish diplomatic relations with Cuba in exchange for an end to what we call the exporting of revolution to other nations in the hemisphere, would you agree to some kind of inspection on your island to guarantee and prove that you were not exporting revolution?
Okay. Now they
y establecer relaciones diplomáticas con nosotros a cambio de que nosotros detuviéramos lo que ellos llaman exportar la revolución y permitir una inspección para verificar esto.
You ask United States, we are not demanding economical help, we are not demanding commercial relation, we demand peace. And peace can be established over the base of respect to the sovereignty of our country. Peace can be established over the base of absolute respect of the international principle, absolute respect of the sovereignty of all the nations. You understand? We can live in peace with all the nations in this hemisphere.
Okay, this is Dr. Castro. Roll 5, take 1.
Stay off me. You on Castro? Off me?
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Castro.
People that said you that. But, for example, if we live in a police state, why we do not forbidden to the people to come to Cuba, to the visitors to come to Cuba? You in the United States forbidden the United States citizens to come to Cuba. We don't forbid the Cuban to go to the United States. We don't forbid to the United States citizens to come to Cuba. So I can say you have a police state. You have many police organizations, policeman organization, FBI, CIA, secret police, all kind of policemen in all the state, federal policemen, state policemen in Cuba. We have million laborers, peasants, all they have weapons and the right of belong to the militia, to the army. The students are armed. So everybody have weapon in Cuba. That in any police state you can give the weapon to the people, because then the people will never accept the police state, will never accept oppression. So if everybody has a weapon in Cuba, it means that everybody agree with the revolution. Not everybody, most of the people is with the revolution. That people defend the revolution in every situation. United States always are speaking about overthrown revolution with uprising. They don't need to send weapons to Cuba. We have 100,000 weapons. Everybody have weapons, but we have the people. The people is with the revolution. The people is army in Cuba. In Cuba we can say the people is the state. The people is the state in Cuba. And when the people is the state, you cannot speak about a policeman state. And we have not restriction to go out, not restriction to come in here to United States. You cannot, you in United States, where you like to speak about freedom, individual freedom, and you don't permit to United States citizens to come to Cuba. Only few people like you that report and make all kind of questions. You make all kind of investigation, inquisitive question. So you are permitted to come to Cuba. But really, sincerely, I cannot be the judge. I cannot be the judge about what we are doing. I have not a special interest in refusing that. But I can say that everybody can come to Cuba and to see what happened in Cuba. And they can make the judge. You have some mind, we have some mind.
Wait
it's
a second.
Possible.
I want to pick up a frame of question. Okay,
Yes.
keep rolling.
It's possible.
Wait, I want to frame
Yes.
something. Dr. Castro, we have spoken, well, wait a minute, on a one.
Yes.
Dr. Castro, we have spoken to people who said that they live in a constant state of terror, that they believe they are watched and followed, and that they fear.
Nobody have problem. If they are making conspiration against the revolution, if they are agree with the foreign policy, United States policy.
The
Do you
militia.
see, for example, you can see how I work. I visit every place. I have not 100 men with me. I have only few group of men helping me between the people. Everybody can come to speak with me in every place. I have never been afraid, and I would have reason, because in the United States many counter-revolution have been trained to attend against my life. I am not afraid. I feel sure between the people. I don't know what if somebody have in their mind the idea they are danger. It is a subjective problem.
Do you ever fear for your life?
States?
But I want to frame something about assassination, attempt, because that was an issue the other week. We often read of reports of attempts on your life. Do you fear for your life?
For example, in Soviet Union, never anybody knew that I have been killed, because anybody wished that I be killed. In the United States there are many counter-revolutions, and many people, there are several people that would like to reach the news that I have been killed. They confuse their wish, their illusion with their with the reality. But until now I have lived 5 years between the people, and nobody never have making fire against me. I feel sure, I don't worry, and this is my job. For example, you see what paradoxical situation in United States. The president felt sure, absolutely sure. I am sure the United States government take much more measures for their personal security than I take. And they knew that the President of the United States had been killed. It was a surprise, a complete surprise. To anybody here in Cuba was a good news, because sincerely we can be political enemies, but we don't wish the death of anybody. In some way, we felt when you have some oppositor and your oppositor disappear, you don't feel satisfied. In some sense, I felt that when oppositor that disappear in a way that we cannot be agree with that way. In the situation, well, I think that many people want I be killed. All the men are called to die soon or later. Anybody somebody does not know that. We know quite well that. Well, while we live, we work, we fulfill our job, and we are satisfied, we are happy, and we are not worried about that.
If anything were to happen to you, what would you think? I would ask him, if anything would happen to him, what would come next?
My opinion.
Wait, let me pose this. If anything were to happen to you, what do you think would be the fate of the Cuban Revolution?
At the beginning, my death could be a very hard strike to the revolution, but not now. We have 5 years. We have an organization. We have several men that have wonderful condition to lead the country. I feel absolutely sure nothing will happen. Absolutely sure. I can give to the revolution my experience. Every one of us learned during the years. I have some experience. I helped the revolution with my experience. But you can be sure, as I am sure, that nothing would happen. Of course, we don't want to make the proof, but we are not worried. Sincerely, we are not worried about that. A revolution is not the job of a man. A revolution is the matter and the job of a people. And the people join in difficult situations, and take a chief in difficult situations. Not a revolution never have disappeared because the chief disappeared. I don't want to make comparison. I am the leader of a small country, a revolution, but suppose the great revolution, Soviet revolution, Lenin in a very difficult situation, in much more difficult situation than our situation, died, and revolution continued. Revolution is not the job of a man, it's the job of the people.
Who would take over?
This is not a monarchy, and nobody is deciding. At the beginning, when I understood it was a danger for the revolution, that I be killed, I spoke about Raúl, but it is a problem that ought to be solved by the direction, the collective direction of the revolution. We have many men. And as you see, we have a president. I am prime minister. My job is not is a political job, and I give the strength to the idea, impulse. I give impulse to many things, but we have the president, the minister council, we have a political party, we have the direction of the political party. In that situation, the national direction of our party would design a prime minister to make the job that I do. But here in Cuba, all the principal problems, political problems, are discussed in our direction, in the direction. All the important problems. I never take a personal decision. Always I like to know the opinion of the other, and when we are agree, we take decisions.
Dr. Castro, is there any possibility that this revolution could go in another direction, that is, back to a democracy, to free elections, to many of the proclamations that you issued in the Sierra Maestra?
It is not easy that one United States, ¿cómo se llama? Un ciudadano corriente, un ciudadano normal, a common citizen of the United States and the Cuban Revolution can understand about those problems. You have your idea about democracy. We have our ideas of democracy. For democracy, there are many examples. For example, I can speak about unemployed. I can speak about Negroes in the United States. To know one of them, the Negroes who live in the South of the United States, and to know then you can speak about the democracy. To many poor people in the United States, unfortunate people in the United States, you can speak about the democracy. For them, democracy is a formal idea. You have two parties, both controlled by oligarchy in the United States. You call that democracy. In Athens, in the ancient Athens, in ancient Greeks, they called democracy, and there were dozens of thousands of slaves, and they were speaking about democracy. You in the United States have many interests in all the world. Your company make to work very hard. Millions of men in Latin America and all the world, they have not rights. They have not standard of living. They have not illustration, education, and they have not hospital assistance. So you speak about your democracy. And that is why you never, it is not easy. Someday you will understand our idea of democracy.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it. Are we on?
Everybody ready?
Ready.
Okay, Dr. Castro, Rule 5, Take 2.
Dr. Castro, all the people that we talked with who oppose you said they opposed you because they thought that you were going to make a democratic revolution, and instead you made a communist revolution.
When they say democratic, they speak about capitalistic revolution, free enterprise revolution, monopoly influence here. They are thinking in their class interest. They are not thinking in the peasant, in the labor, in the Negroes, in the student, in the intellectual. They are thinking in their material interest. That is what they call democracy. Batista said he was democracy. General, all those rich men, owner of lands, they were speaking about democracy. That is what they understand for democracy. Lincoln said, democracy is the government of the people, by the people, for the people. Revolution, too, is the government who take power with the people and make rules for the people. Nobody can deny that here our government is an honest government. We have disappeared all kind of vices in our society, all kind of rob, malversation. And here every rule is made to help the people. And we have made many things for the people. 1 million Cubans didn't know to learn and to write, to read and to write. They now know. Everybody have assured their education in Cuba. Everybody have their job sure in Cuba. The possibility of a student. Everybody, white, Negroes, everybody in Cuba. People feel this. So you have to analyze deeply the problem of Cuba to understand our problem. We have not formalized several things. We need to give a form to institutionalize several things. We had not time to do so many things during those 5 years.
I want to put something about the education, because he mentioned that. Let me go into this. We visited many of the schools, and we found an extraordinary uniformity. The children seemed to answer by rote. There seemed to be a good deal of Marxist indoctrination. There seemed to be very little independent thinking. Does that disturb you?
Visitaron unas cuantas escuelas y que encontraron mucha uniformidad en cuanto a un adoctrinamiento marxista.
Well, in your schools in the United States, what do you teach to your students? You teach your point of view. You speak them about enterprise, free enterprise. You speak them about your business, your industry, your interest in all the world. Do you speak about that to your young? You are the class who rules in United States. Try to teach what they want to their students. Here in Cuba, the revolution teach and prepare the young people for the revolution too. But an example, my personal example, I studied in one religious school since the first years until until I went to the university. What did they teach to me? I didn't decide which school. My father chose the schools, and they enseñaron, taught me all what they wanted. I had no opportunity to choose. And in Cuba there were 100 religious schools where the sons of the rich class were educated. Now we educate our young men in revolutions, ideas too, in our ideas. Well, but we said to the people, we teach the people, we don't want ignorant people. We want people who learn to think, who learn to think. We don't say to the young boys, believe. We don't say believe. We say study. We say then think. If we were afraid that the people study and the people think, we never would develop the education until the degree, grado, until the degree that we have developed, because we are teaching to everybody. We are educating to everybody. And if you know to read and to write, you are in better condition to think and to analyze. You can lie to those ignorant people. ¿Cómo se dice engañar? You cannot cheat educated people. And we the revolutionaries have real obsession to educate the people. So it proves we are not afraid that the people think and the people analyze. We are sure about our future. We are sure about our job, about our reason. You were revolutionary too at the beginning. When you make your independent war, you had to fight. What the England thought about you? You were liberal at the beginning. The England were monarchy. And the England were not agree. And the England went to Canadian, to other places. And you in United States began to teach to the people your constitution, the right, the Declaration of Right of the United States. You talk to your people that. So in England they said, they are liberal. To call somebody liberal in 1776 was the same to call now socialist, Marxist, communist now. Is the same. Those who went out to hear about communism is a devil. But when you made your revolution, when you were called liberal, was the same as devil.
Are you comparing your revolution with our revolution?
Once upon a time, you lived that experience. In the future, the world will give the reason to us. I am sure, and will not give the reason to you now, because you were liberal at the beginning, but now you cannot call yourself liberal. What happened in Vietnam? What happened in Latin America? You help dictator, you help a military group. You have been in good relation with oligarchy until Cuban Revolution. If you now begin to worry about social reform, was a consequence of Cuban Revolution. Can you deny that?
Could that not be a social consciousness on our own part and not the cause of the Cuban Revolution?
No podía ser que han tomado más conciencias sociales y no la causa de la Revolución Cubana.
Well, but it coincides very much with Cuban Revolution. I suspect. I have my doubt about that.
Go ahead.
Okay, on the de Gaulle, you got two things, Khrushchev and de Gaulle. You spent a great deal of time with Premier Khrushchev recently and on your first trip to Russia. What do you think of Mr. Khrushchev as a man, as a leader?
I have a wonderful opinion about Khrushchev. I have spoken about that here in Cuba. I admired Khrushchev. He's a very human man, very sensitive, how do you call it? Modest man in his relation with everybody, with the people, with the other leaders. He's a very, very much intelligent man, very much. He's a very clear mind, and he's a responsible man. He's a peace man too. Really, he's a man who worries for peace, and I understand him very well. And more I know him, better impression I have about him. A wonderful impression, really, sincerely.
You are now buying buses from England. You are talking about buying ships from Spain. I understand you have an economic mission in Switzerland. Does this mean a radical change in your trade policy, Dr. Castro?
No, never. Where is the change? We never denied to make business with United States, with any nation. It was United States policy to cut our commercial relation with United States and all and those nations that you mentioned. It was not our policy. Our policy has been since the beginning to business with all the nations. And that is what we are doing. That is what we are doing now. We succeed. We a lot succeed, really. And I think it's a big mistake of the United States to try to cut that relation, because United States cannot forget that nations have their problems. They are money problems. They need business. They need to sell to solve their problems. Now, all the nations have economical problems, and it's a wise policy, that economical blockade. That is why that is not a realistic. You spoke about realism. That is not in any way a realistic policy. You, the American, like to say that you are practical people, that you are realistic people. But I have seen many things in which you don't prove to be very much realistic. And you call us that we are illusionistic people, that we are dreaming, and we are proving where we are more realistic. Our policy is more realistic than your policy.
How do you regard President de Gaulle's policy of recognizing Red China?
I think it was a very wise policy. Very wise policy. And that proves once more that your policy is not a realistic policy. That proof is another example. You have spoken me about that. I think it's a wise policy. Another thing, as you know, de Gaulle had played a very important paper in the modern French. My idea, of course, and my social idea and political idea are quite different from political idea of de Gaulle. But de Gaulle worked very much for French. In the worst days of French, he played a very important paper and a very important role. And French has now a very important position in international matter. And while he take measures like that, it is just that we recognize it's a very wise policy. I know that you don't like that policy, but it's a consequence of your mistakes. Mistake in many places. But I am not going to give advice to you. I think you will learn with the time.
What would you like to see I have to pose this. Wait a second.
The England.
My turn.
Okay.
What would you like to see the United States do as regards Cuba?
Regard to Cuba, if I can make in a war to live in peace with Cuba, is the only thing. I think we wish that, but I am sure it's the only wise policy that the United States can take. But if I try to persuade you about that, many people are going to believe we are going, ¿cómo se dice hundirse? Sinking. But we feel sure, we feel happy. We can live without United States very well. We need peace. United States need peace. The world need peace. Our policy is a peace policy. And I think that is a good policy for every nation, and of course for United States. And I think you begin to understand the part of the problem. You begin to understand. And you will understand. I heard the fisherman to say the very intelligent thing that you had lot of things, long time. You don't appreciate simple things. He said, the fishermen that came to live here in Cuba. You see one American that want to come to live in Cuba. Well, and you will be wise with the time, like England, like French. You saw French had a lot of problem, colonial problem in Vietnam, in Algeria. They made the peace with Vietnam. They made the peace with Algeria. Now they have good relation with Algeria, and nobody doubt that is a better policy for French than the policy of war with Algeria. But what happened? French left a problem, and United States, took the problem. And when the wise government leave problem, you that are not wise take the problem. That is what is happening. The England are wise people too.
But we feel.
Are wise people too, but you are not wise people now.
But we feel that we want to live in peace, but that you are interested in exporting your revolution all over Latin America. Perhaps we
have
live in peace.
We have declared very clearly that we are in condition of living in peace with all the nations. But it is necessary the other nations, the others, live in peace with us too. We cannot demand
Why do you insist that we photograph you from the back of the chair?
I insist because I don't want to get into trouble.
And what trouble do you think you could get into if it were known that you spoke to me against the revolution?
I'd be sent to jail.
You would be sent to jail. What would happen?
That I don't know. That I don't know.
Do you feel that down here your actions are watched, that you're followed?
Well, I think so. I think so.
Do you feel there's a kind of state of fear here?
Well, it is.
Cut just a little. I'm sorry, honey. Why do you insist that we photograph you from the back of the chair?
Lisa, I insist on that because I could get into trouble. And if by any chance they don't like what I see, they can take me to jail.
And you think that would consider that Cuba under Fidel Castro is a police state?
That I cannot answer you, Lisa, I'm sorry. I tell you, I don't want to be interviewed.
May I ask you, for you, how conditions have changed today as against conditions under the Batista regime?
Lisa, I don't want to get into that, please.
No one can see you. We're only photographing the back of a chair.
It's not only the idea of photographing, but it's just the idea of talking. It makes me feel that I shouldn't say it.
But could you tell us,
say anything.
Do you have friends who have been sent to jail?
Yes, a lot of them.
A lot of them. For what reasons?
Well, different ones. All counter-revolutions. They were charged of acts of counter-revolution.
Speaking against the government?
That's it, one. Other ones because they were conspiring. Other was because of letters they received from the states. Different reasons that I don't know, because I just know they had been taken, and of course, when they are in trouble, I try to get away from them the more I can, because as I told you, I want to stay here and I don't want to get into trouble, because I have very big responsibilities.
What keeps you here?
Well, my mother and my aunt, which are two old ladies, and I must take care of them, and they cannot move. Besides, I still have left my house and my Reforma Urbana. So I'm able to live here, and I'm not able to live anywhere else. I'm not a healthy woman. I'm very sick. I cannot work. I'm not prepared to work. because you cannot start to work at 42 with a liver trouble, hepatitis, which I should do most resting, and until now I'm able to live here.
How do you manage to earn a living to get enough money to live?
I get in the Reform Urbana a certain amount and have a little money in the bank, and I try to live out of that. I don't live like I used to do before, but I try. It keeps me alive. I supervise.
How did you live before?
Well, of course, I was working myself, and my husband, as I told you, had a position and have my children with me. As I don't have the children now, life is cheaper for me. I don't have to pay an education for them. I have my mother, my aunt, and I, and an old servant who stay with us.
Do you have a feeling that at any time they might take your house or take your money? Are you uncertain?
Well, we are always uncertain. We never know what can happen yet. I hope for the moment, no. The laws in the moment are not to take our houses, but who knows on the future.
And you live in a state of fear?
Well, I do.
Always?
No, I have better times. When I don't know anybody who is in trouble, I'm more quiet. But when I know that people are in trouble, I get in fear.
What do you hope will people here in Cuba support the revolution or against the revolution?
I think when it's on, it's because they are supporting it.
When
when the revolution goes on, it's because it's supported.
You think the people do support it?
I think they do support it.
You think it's just the people like yourself, in your position, people who had money before that are very disturbed by the revolution?
Well, poor people too.
Poor people too?
Yes.
In what way?
Well, in a way that before they were able to get whatever they want, and now they have a ration card, which you could only get certain things a month, and that's not only for me, it's for everybody. Everybody gets a car, and you get 2 dresses a year, and whatever it is that you must know.
Did you at one point support Dr. Castro earlier?
Well, I'm not a politician. I never interfered in politicians. Our family had never interfered in politicians. I never support or not supporting. I was completely out of politics.
Did you believe that he was going to create a democratic revolution?
No.
You didn't believe that?
No. No.
Were you surprised when it became a communist revolution?
No, I wasn't surprised. I wasn't surprised. I was expecting it.
How many people like you remain here? Very many?
Quite a few. But almost all the people are in my same position. They love the country and they want to stay. It's very sad to go as a...
But they stay and they live in fear.
They all live in fear. Some of them, they didn't even go out. I'm not. I go out and I do a normal life. And personally, with me, they had not bothered me. Personally. I mean, it's my house, I've never been bothered.
But some of the
trouble, they decide to stay and they don't want to get into trouble. They just want to live an easy life, in a way.
How has the revolution affected you?
Well, the revolution has affected me in every way possible. Very especially as to family ties, which to me are more important than all the business they've taken away, the money, the home, everything. But the breaking of the family ties has been the worst thing. I have all my family away, my parents, my brothers, sisters, and most of all my 4 children. And that to me is the worst of all.
Why do you say that?
Well, because my husband feels that one should never leave his own country, no matter what. And he will stay here. He'd rather die than live anywhere else. whether he has anything or he has nothing at all.
And they took everything?
Absolutely everything, except the house we are living now.
The money, the business?
Everything. Sugar plantation, everything.
At what point did they take everything?
Well, rather early. The business of the sugar plantation was 2 years this last December. 2 years ago this last December. And the home in the country. And another business of, that he had with the Standard Oil, that was taken away a few months ago.
Do you live in a kind of state of fear?
Yes, I do.
You never quite know what's going to happen?
No. Always expecting the worst.
Always expecting the worst. Fine.
Vaya allá para que vea un día. Sí. Y allá, ¿qué va? Todos mis hijos, las hembras, trabajando en fábrica, mire.
Comandante.
¿Tú eres que estudia? El Fidel.
Comandante.
Ella trabaja en la fábrica. Fábrica.
Bueno, comandante.
Mejor que allá en Toque.
Comandante.
Pero sé. Ha habido muchas reuniones. Cada día están presentando.
Que se queden los buenos. Que se queden los buenos. Ya, cuidado. Hoy. ¿Cómo se va para allá?
¿Cómo se encuentra la hora eléctrica? ¿Cómo encuentra la hora eléctrica?
Está bonita.
Está bonita, sí.
Está bonita.
Cuidado.
Stop here. Ask the children to come down here. Come to.
Bien. Dando una vuelta por acá.
I just stand here so I can talk to the children. Could you?
Por allí, por allá. Voy a entrar por aquí primero. Por acá. ¿Qué pasa? Dime. ¿Qué? ¿Cómo está? ¿Cómo está? ¿Qué pasa?
¿Cómo anda?
Bien. Dejen pasar. Abran paso.
Fidel, ¿cómo está? Fidel,
Mientras vamos a caminar, vamos a llegar.
¡Silencio! ¡Silencio, por favor! ¡Silencio!
Pero mayores.
¿Y eso qué es lo que es? ¿Para qué es eso? Espérate que me diga cómo está grabando.
Is there a great fear that you will be sent to jail?
Well, even for small incidents, you would be taken to jail. You know what I mean? For instance, if you are in a big line for getting foods and buying foods that for everything you buy here, you have to make a line, well then if you say something against the government and there are people there on the line that belongs to the government, they will of the people.
Have you ever been sent to prison?
Well, I was in prison for hours one day because I hesitated. I was in my little car and I hesitated. I stopped and I didn't know if I was going one way or the other one. And so they took the number of my car and I was in prison from 6 at evening to 2:30 in the middle of the night. And daughter was worried all the time and they wouldn't let me call to my house and say where I was, none of that.
How are conditions in terms of food, clothing, living conditions?
Card, you know, you can buy two materials, different materials, to make you 2 dresses a year. And you can buy 1 sweater, you can buy 2 pairs of shoes, 1 to go out and 1 sport shoes, and 2 panties, and 1 pajama to sleep, things, only that. If you want to buy something else, you have to get it from a friend who is not going to buy that, because you're only allowed to buy that.
Do you have any friends who've been sent to jail?
Oh yes, quite a few.
Could you tell us an incident?
Well, for big incidents, you know, before the beginning of the revolution, I know quite a few. And now for small incidents, like if you have a party in your house and there were 7 couples, I mean, so 14 people, and they were having a lunch, and there were doctors, 7 doctors with their wives, and they were in this lunch having, celebrating a birthday of one of them. And the G2 came in there, 4 men, and they said, who is the owner of the house? And they took the owner of the house. The other men wanted to go and accompany them, but they wouldn't allow it, only the owner of the house. And they had him from 2 o'clock in the evening until midnight, just for having a lunch. This happened 15 days ago. See?
Is he still in prison?
No, he's out now, and they told him that he could he couldn't have no invitation, you know, more than 6 people without asking a permission, and by saying there that he would, I don't know how to say in English, he would be sure of the people that he had in his house.
Do you feel that your actions are watched and followed?
Oh yes, yes. If you do
Any little thing. I wouldn't say that all the actions, simple actions, but if you did, well, anything, if you brought to your house, let's say, 2 packages or 3, you know what I mean, often, or 1 package or 2 very often, you would be followed to know what, shall I say, my brother went to. Damn.
Cut just a second there.
How would you live happily without no trouble? But here, they mingle with everybody, no matter if you are a politician or you are not politician. This regimen takes care of making unhappy almost everybody in Cuba. That's what I think.
And this is the militia you're talking about that watches?
Well, then we have los milicianos, that we call them, you know, that they are all the time watching the people at everywhere you go, you know what I mean? And if you are in the lines for food, they're all the time seeing what you talk and so on, and you are all the time like, well, like if you are watched, you know, you feel all the time that someone is looking at you, seeing what you are doing, and finding out what are your movements, you see?
Do you feel frightened?
Oh, most of it.
To earn a living?
Well, my husband was a doctor, and I'm a widow of a doctor, and I get my monthly pension, you know, and I also do some sewing, see, and that's the way I earn a living. Until, see, I don't want to go from here in this year on account that I have a very old mother.
Wait just a second, stop. I'm going to pose the question, what keeps you here? You're on?
No.
Why do you stay here in Cuba?
Well, I'm staying, I want to go, but because I have my children, my daughter in the States, in Portland, Oregon, and my boy in Venezuela, see? And I'm dying to see them because I have 6 grandchildren and I'm really very homesick without them. But I have my mother who is 70 years old, and she doesn't want me to leave her, you know, and she's not feeling very well, so I'll have to stay here until she is a little better, that I'll be able to join my children.
And when you leave, will you have to leave everything here?
When I leave, I'll have to leave every tiny little thing that I have done all my life with my work, and never get it back, because I lose everything. As soon as we get out of the airport, we lose absolutely everything. You have to leave your clothes, your house, all your intimate things, everything. You have to leave it. Otherwise, they don't give you the permission to get out. I have friends who they needed money and they sold their television or their radio before leaving, and they couldn't leave. In the plane, they were sent down, right down.
Because they had...
Because they had sold the radio or the television or whatever.
Did you originally support Dr. Castro? Were you in favor of Dr. Castro?
Oh, yes, at the beginning. Very much in favor of him. But I never thought he was going to make this revolution become a communism. Because I will never stand for communism. Never.
You thought it was going to be a democratic revolution?
A democratic revolution. Not this. I am very unhappy, far away from my children, that I don't want my grandchildren, I have 6, to become communism. So I'm left here alone so that they will have their education in the United States where I had mine and where they had theirs.
Do you think that most of the people on the island like Dr. Castro and the revolution? Not.
Well, I really... And people who are left here, what are they going to do? If anything that they'll do, they'll be caught right away and sent to prison, because they have so many people finding out what you do that they discover absolutely everything, and you're sent to prison.
How many prisoners do you think there are on the island?
Well, really, I don't know the real number of them, but quite a lot. I guess there will be around 70,000 or something like that. They take away all out of jail the people that rob and assassinate or anything, and they fill the jails with people that are not with the revolution.
And you feel that you're living under a total police state?
Oh yes, that's the way almost all of the Cubans feel. They have fear to talk. They are afraid to show themselves, to say what they think in public, because you never know who the one who is next to you is going to think, you see? So no one shows their feelings in public. No one.
A state of fear.
You could prove it.
How's that?
Like, for instance, to dinner, couldn't you amount of the other couple who had dinner with us? Absolutely. A big panic.
Just great.
It's too bad, Liz.
Marvelous. Great, brilliant.
No,
we got everything you want, didn't you?
Now let's go.
I thought you said it was the ambassador. Would you tell us how you find conditions here?
In the end, his speeches had grown shorter, his appearances more rare. But Fidel Castro's tone remained defiant as ever.
Socialismo o muerte.
Socialism or death. Fidel Castro loved to hate America at every political turn.
Hasta la victoria siempre.
Eliancito, la patria te espera.
His own political stock, albeit small, soared during the international custody fight for Elian Gonzalez.
Bingo, bingo, bingo.
When the U.S. returned his little prince, Castro called the moment a moral victory over imperialist America. The man, born Fidel Alejandro Castro Ruz in Biran, Cuba, came to power leading a ragtag band of bearded rebels to overthrow a dictator. He ended up becoming one himself. Castro stood defiantly against 10 U.S. presidents. Around the world, leftists who hated America's influence and power called Castro a hero. But for the U.S., he was the all-too-close face of the bitter Cold War. And while the world could never completely dismiss Castro politically, over time, to some critics, he seemed more like a caricature, with his wiry beard, faded fatigues, and 6-inch cigars. The man who would lead the small Caribbean island to communism was educated by Jesuit priests and earned his law degree at the University of Havana. Castro launched his first and failed revolution in 1953, where 30 of his followers were killed while attacking the Moncada barracks. Castro was imprisoned, then deported, but made his way back on an overloaded powerboat. After nearly a decade of coups, riots, and political rebellion, the people despaired of the government of Fulgencio Batista. He stepped down, left the country, and Castro seized power on January 1st, 1959. He held on for nearly 50 years. The most significant U.S. response to Castro's communist regime came in 1961, when President John F. Kennedy backed the failed Bay of Pigs invasion, where hundreds of Cuban exile fighters were captured and sent to prison or killed. The next year, American spy planes discovered secret Soviet missiles inside Cuba. After a 13-day U.S. naval blockade, the Soviet Union backed down and removed the missiles. Castro was enraged as the world watched two superpowers walk away from a nuclear nightmare. In 1980, Castro unleashed an unprecedented human wave of more than 125,000 Cubans on America. Mixed in with political prisoners were criminals, murderers, rapists, and the insane. The Mariel boat lift forever changed South Florida's landscape. 14 years later, as Cuba's economy collapsed further, Castro unleashed a second wave of human cargo. This time, whether America wanted them or not, 30,000 Cubans were coming to her shores again. In 1998, Cuba opened its island doors to Pope John Paul II. The Holy Father and the man who chained down Cuba's churches shared words before the world. Critics would later call the historic meeting little more than a public relations campaign. In the summer of 2006, Castro underwent surgery for intestinal bleeding and quietly ceded power to his younger brother, Raul. In February 2008, Castro announced he would no longer serve as Cuba's president and commander-in-chief. A surprising move few thought they would live to see. By the end of the month, the country's National Assembly formally elected Raul to succeed his brother Fidel. After resigning as the head of Cuba's Communist Party in April 2011, Castro remained largely out of the public eye. With one notable exception, in March of 2012, he would welcome a second pontiff, Pope Benedict XVI. The two met privately at the end of Benedict's three-day visit to Cuba, despite the Pope's vocal opposition to Cuba's government. The two spoke for roughly 30 minutes, with Castro asking the Holy Father, "What does a pope do?" Still, Castro's conspicuous absence in later years fueled constant rumors about his health. When President Obama announced the softening of U.S. sanctions against Cuba in December 2014, President Raul Castro spoke with the American president by telephone, welcoming the announcement. But the man who brought communism to Cuba, Fidel, made no appearances and had no public comment on the ending of the Cold War freeze he'd ushered in more than a half-century earlier. Though often referred to as a tyrannical dictator, millions on the impoverished island considered Castro the charismatic leader who brought education and medicine to the masses. But to America's Cuban exiles, he was forever hated, responsible for Cuba's economic ruin. In Washington, Brett Baer, Fox News.
Financial situation, sana finanzas, no finanzas sound. For example, in December, the National Bank reached 20 million more than the money they emitted. You know, last 2 months we were taking money from circulation. And the situation is that we begin to take money from circulation.
How did this happen so suddenly?
Because we have more production, we have more imported product, industrial product. For example, in December, we are sold about $200 million in radio, clothes, food, wine, many things.
All produced here in Cuba?
No, not all produced.
Well, how did you get them?
For example, the wine we imported from Spain, wine, television, radio, several industrial...
Yes, but what I'm trying to find out is where did you get the money to import all this?
Because we export sugar. Price of sugar was a very high price. We sold sugar at 10 cents. And this year we have sold the sugar at 9.
On the Western market?
The Western market. And in the Soviet market, we don't prefer those prices of conjunctura prices. Because sometimes it's very high, then it's very low. We cannot plan. That is why we make a
steady price.
A state price.
Steady.
6 cents and about 5 million tons. All the sugar we can sell to 6 cents until 1970.
But wasn't the Soviet sugar that they purchased pegged at 4 cents?
Pardon?
Wasn't the Soviet sugar that was purchased last year pegged at 4 cents?
Que si la azúcar soviética vendía el año pasado fue...
No, they paid us the same that in world market. And our price to world market was 6 cents. Now this year they wanted to pay the world market. They thought it was better for us. But we explained then we were developing our sugar production, that the price in the future will not so high, that we prefer to make our economical planification to sell to the same price, same quantity. We are going to this year we sold then 1,600,000. Next year 2,100,000. Other year 3 million. Other year 4 million, and then 68, 69, and 70, 5 million.
Other subjects,
The price will be about, our sugar crop will worth in 1970 about 1,200 millions. Only sugar. Now we buy from Soviet Union, but oil, machinery, foods, you know?
No.
We buy foods.
Tell me what you said.
I am going to the
Tell me
show.
what you said about the weapons.
I am going
Say
to...
that again. That you don't pay for them.
We don't pay for weapons.
Why not?
Because we would never have money enough to pay all the weapons we have need.
You have a lot of weapons.
Unfortunately, a lot of them.
When do you think the day will come, Dr. Castro, when you won't
We
need all those
prefer
weapons?
machinery to the agriculture and to the factory than the weapons. And war and ship to fish and not to work. Airplane to travel and to work, not to fight. It is clearly, anybody who comes to Cuba can see that what we want is to work. We need to work. That is our problem and the problem of all the nation. Who wants work? Who wants work? Nobody wants work.
What would happen
I see the United States is a big nation, can live in peace with a small nation at 90 miles.
How? Where's the basis? Where's the basis? How can Cuba and the United States live in peace?
Very easy. I think the basis, legal basis, the respect, ¿cómo se dice?
Mutual respect.
Existing a new technical to produce sugar cane. We planted one leguminosa there. Dile que nosotros hemos plantado una leguminosa allí para enterrarla y después sembrar caña.
We have planted a green fertilizer there, bury it and then produce and then plant it.
There's a question I wanted to ask Dr. Castro.
Una pregunta que le quiero hacer.
And that is
alfalfa. You see how pretty alfalfa is new in Cuba. New in Cuba. You see?
I'm wondering if the mechanization.
Eso entonces echa para atrás si no se puede pasar. Echa para atrás.
Cut it. What I wanted to ask is if the mechanization will put people out of work as it has in our country.
Okay. Alfalfa. Dile que allí vamos a producir conejos. Con alfalfa. Es alfalfa para una producción.
Rabbits on that field. Doctor, le quiero hacer una pregunta, que si la mecanización no causará desempleo.
No, really, because we need the people to build houses, to build hospital, school, to the factory, new factory. Never.
That's your answer.
For example, we have no problem with unemployment. For example, to produce shoes, we had many small factories, What we did? We concentrated the labor in a big factory. Disappear a small factory. Then we pay the labor their salary while they were studying another thing, to work in as torneros, técnicos, obreros técnicos. When we have, cuando nosotros tenemos un excedente de trabajadores,
we have surplus manpower.
We send them to school. We pay them. We send to school. We prepare to another activity. But really no problem, because there are many needs. In every country there are needs. If you employ your labor to produce the thing you need, you will never have unemployment. In the past, we have not, for example, market to the sugar cane. So you cannot develop, you cannot mechanize. Because if you mechanize, you have not market, everybody hungry. Now we can mechanize because we have all market we want. for our sugar, for our meat, everything we produce, we can sell. That is why we have not stopped to our production, because we have market.
And you will sell in the Western markets as well as in Soviet Russia and the Eastern markets.
Y venderemos tanto los mercados occidentales como los
Of course. We sell a lot of sugar and tobacco. We sell to Japanese, Japan, Spain, England, Morocco, Arabic Republic. Well, many, 20 or 30 nations we sell sugar, tobacco. We can produce, for example, vegetable, because now you go to produce vegetable in Canada and other nations, in invernadero. How do you say invernadero?
Invernadero, that's a place where you make artificial growing of the trees, invernadero.
Now we can produce tomato, lettuce, everything now. We are near United States. In the past, we sent some vegetable to United States, and they send vegetable to us in the months that are too much hot here. Our economy and the United States economy have something that is supplementary. They, for example, they like tobacco. They like our sugar. They have overproduction of something like corn, grass, ¿cómo se dice manteca? Fat. They have overproduction. But now the situation obligates us to produce, to find another market. That is the situation. But we can live in peace. Why we do? Do you think that it's possible to live in peace if you are fishing? They take, because it was enough today. You are in our water. Go. Oxford is most of the time in our water.
It means a ship, the Oxford ship.
Many times in our waters.
We have fished in your national waters?
Not really. You don't fish because there are other places better to fish. You know, in the Gulf Stream. A la izquierda, eso. They don't need to fish. But we need to fish in the Gulf Stream. Sometimes near Mexico, sometimes near Brazil. Now we are developing a float.
But Dr. Castro, you must have known that if the boats went...
Respect to the international law.
Respect to the international
law. Sovereignty. There are problems, economical problem, indemnization. I have spoken about that.
Yes, but you are a realist, Dr. Castro. And you have stated various times
yes,
that you want to live in peace with the United States. Now, what concessions are you willing to make to live in peace with the United States?
We don't demand concessions to the United States.
No. I say, what concessions
to them,
are you willing to
make? Why are they want concession from us? What kind of concession can be possible? Political concession. We cannot make political concession. If they want capitalism here, we don't want capitalism. It's impossible to make political concession.
Suppose if the basis would be to end the training of subversive activities here, to export subversion to other nations throughout the hemisphere.
I think that what I means to a legal base, absolute respect to the international law and the sovereignty of every country, include that principle. The same from Cuba and the same from the United States. We can live in peace with all the nations in Latin America and with the United States over the base of the law.
But we consider...
And the respect of the law. We respect the sovereignty of every nation, and the United States too.
But we consider
Cuba, Panama.
We consider that it violates international law and the security of the hemisphere.
Consideramos que viola la seguridad, la ley, el derecho internacional y la soberanía.
When you train agents,
cuando usted entrena a agentes
for subversive activities throughout the hemisphere,
para actividades subversivas en todo el hemisferio.
Yes, you always are speaking about that. You never speak about you are training agents to make counter-revolution in all the world. Why don't you speak about that? You like to speak about
Let's
Cuba.
speak about the other first.
De primero vamos a hablar del otro.
Which is first?
My question.
La pregunta de ella.
And why?
Okay.
Who began first to make counter-revolution in the world? Cuba. Counter-revolution was first from revolution. We means that we want to live in peace. The condition necessary to live in peace. It is our answer. We want to live in peace with all the world over the basis of law and respect. See, this is the place where we are going to concentrate 1,500 cattle. Yes, in this place. And the food will be produced in 95 hectares near from this place. The grass will be cut and translated to here. They will have 3 shadows. Not building, you see? Not expensive, not a high cost, because we are going to use 3 from shadow. They will eat all around. 1,500 in this place, and the food for them will be produced in 95 hectares. Will be a world record, and we will begin in March 15 or in April 1. It depends, because now the grass is growing, and in 1 year we want to state, we think to state a record. That was what I mean, that we will produce more meat and more milk, not in total, but for hectare, you know?
No. I was interested in the problem of prostitution.
Estaba interesado en el problema de la prostitución.
Within 4 miles of the United States coast, that this was going to create an incident. You must have known this.
Usted debe haber sabido que si los barcos iban a aproximarse a 4 millas a las costas norteamericanas, iba a haber un incidente.
Not exactly to 4 miles to the United States coast. Few miles from a small key very far from the United States. It's not the same like near New York, near Miami, near Key West. They were few miles near one small, almost invisible key. It's not the same. And it is enough. What happened if what happened? You are in our water. But they were not in, sincere, they were not in America. And we gave advice to them, no to them, 2 months ago. Because we need to fish, because, I don't know, the Gulf Stream. Sometimes the fish are here, sometimes here, sometimes here, sometimes here. You know to fish. If we cannot fish in one of the parts, it is not prejudice to anybody. United States have problem with Ecuador, with Peru, because they have 200 miles. We have only 3 miles. Now, I don't know the reason to be any difficult, because our Soviet ship are there fishing in all parts. Japanese ship in every place. 3 miles from us. Never incident start with another ship, only with our ship. Why?
Why?
Ship.
¿Por qué? ¿Por qué?
You ought to know better than me. You know your people. You are not your people, your government.
¿Por qué?
It's a chicken. It's 2 chicken grand.
Chicken farm.
2 eggs production. It's new too. There are many new houses. You see? Machinery for cattle. To crop, to make hen. Canadian. That are
Where do they cut Canada?
Canadian, yes. It's food for cattle.
Are those recent? When did you get those from Canada?
About 1 month ago. for the new plants. Now we have a school of about 600 students to study soil, fertilization, and feed for cattle. It's a new school, very wonderful school. About 600. Near where was Batista farm.
So there has been a tremendous development in your agricultural economy in the last few years.
Así que ha habido un gran desarrollo en nuestra economía agrícola en los últimos años.
It is better to say that we have prepared the condition to produce a big.
And you feel that you now produce enough to feed your people sufficiently and to export?
Yes. In meat, yes. I think that in 5 or 6 years we will. Now we want to fish, because if we fish, we can export meat in the future. Of course, if everybody eat only meat, but if people eat meat, fish, eggs, chicken, it is possible to export meat. Pero por la derecha eso.
When do you think, Dr. Castro, the rationing situation will end here in the island?
¿Cuándo usted opina que cesará el racionamiento? ¿Cuándo usted opina que cesará la situación de racionamiento?
I think that we will need this complete, because there are two ways when the people have too much money. Is prices or racionamiento, you know?
Ration.
We don't want to use prices, because we increase the prices, people who have few money cannot buy. That is why now the situation is improving. Why? Because until now we were making emission of money. Now we are taking money. In 2 years, financial situation will be quite different. Production bigger.
This is better. Pants are better.
All right, talk. Carry on the conversation.
Yeah, so do you spend much are you rolling? Yeah. Do you spend much time out here in the fields, on the farms?
Yes, I spend a lot of time. I like, but it is very useful. We are being proof with chicken, kind of proof. But I have about 10 or 12 places with different kind of experiments. But very useful, muy útil. Very useful. Because nosotros estamos revolucionando toda la técnica de producir leche y café.
We are revolutionizing all techniques in the production of meat and milk.
But
we had a very old agriculture, artisanal system of producing. You know, we need to mechanize the production. I like to experiment with cattle and with sugar. Now we are going to cross for a place where we are making a sugarcane experience.
Is this where you have the new cutters from Soviet Russia?
Not really. We have got cattle from Canadian.
Did you say cutters or cattle?
From Jersey.
No. I said, loaders. Is this where he has the cutters, the new
loaders?
Sugar cane.
Sugarcane. Yes, sugarcane machinery to make the crop are Soviet. Wonderful machinery. Few people believe that it was possible to cut with machinery the sugarcane. They built in 3 months machinery. We proved machinery is a wonderful machinery. Without the machinery, it was impossible to increase our production. Cutting the sugarcane with hand was impossible to produce more than 5 to 6 million tons.
But now, last year you produced only 3.5 million.
El año pasado solo producimos 3 million.
Little more. Less than 4 million.
Do you feel that the volunteer effort was a mistake?
El esfuerzo de los trabajadores voluntarios. Y si usted tiene que fue una equivocación, el esfuerzo de los trabajadores voluntarios.
No, you know what happened? That when revolution take the power, began many works, public works, agricultural works, all kind of works. And so thousands and thousands of labor went to other jobs because sugarcane crop was the hard one. And now many of them are working in public labor, in roads. They have job all the year. In other kind of agricultural job, they have job all the year. And in the past, we had about 400,000 labor without job almost all the year. They only work in the crop. And that is not the situation now. That is why it was necessary to mobilize. They only do the part of the job. We mobilize soldiers, voluntary workers in the crop. But in 2 years, we will not need at all. Because in the past, for example, we need 300,000 to produce 6 million tons. Now, when we have mechanization, complete mechanization, we will need no more than 15,000 to produce 6 million tons. But we are going to produce 10 million. And all the crop cannot be mechanized because when the land is planned, you can mechanize it. But when you have some fields, you cannot complete mechanization, only half mechanization. Then you need to cut and to take the machine only to
But won't this mechanization, as in all the
you see our line now in January, a small station, I have here a small station. It's personal investigation. Sugarcane. It is new, only a few months. And there you have to producir abono verde.